Hello, spooky friends, and welcome to another episode of the Scaryish podcast.
Woo!
I'm Robin Grace, this is Adam Diaz.
Hello.
And we are here at a reasonable time.
For once.
And we're here to bring up some pretty interesting topics.
I mean, I hope they're interesting. I'm very interested in mine. I hope you are as well. Robin, what are you going to be covering?
I'm going to be covering the Palace of Versailles.
So I mentioned this earlier. I'm pretty sure I used to sell furniture from this place.
Which is you're so dumb.
It's because like every furniture company has a Versailles collection. And I used to sell furniture for a company called Direct Buy. But yeah.
Direct Versailles.
I hate you so much. That's super interesting. She never asks me what I'm going to be covering, but I am going to be covering what I like to call the Simpsons Prophecies, which I'm sure we've all heard about. Anyone who's ever watched The Simpsons has at least heard about the fact that certain things have appeared on them prior to them taking place.
A long time prior to them taking place.
It depends. We'll get into it when we get to my topic, but I believe you are going to go first.
Yeah.
Before we kickstart that, a reminder: Storytime episodes are recorded Tuesdays, 6:30 p.m. Pacific Standard Time. You can watch them recorded live at youtube.com/Scaryish or twitch.tv/Scaryish podcast. If you have an Amazon Prime subscription, you can go ahead and link that to your Twitch subscription, which is a totally free thing to do. You get Twitch Prime, which makes you super special, and you can also give $5 of Jeff Bezos' money to any channel that you want, which we would hope you would share it with us. But if you don't, at least you're giving away money from a billionaire to someone who likely is not a billionaire. That said, if you have an email you would like to get on that show or a story, you can submit them in any way, shape, or form in which we can receive them. So you can email storytime@scaryish.com. You can also hit us up on any of our social medias and send them to us that way: Facebook, Twitter, Instagram. You can go to our website, Scaryish.com, and click on Contact Us and send your stories that way, or check out any of our social medias because we have the links to all of them. All right, that was fun. That is said. Robin, you can jump into your topic.
All right, so I'm going to cover the Palace of Versailles, and Versailles has always been this place to me where I just imagined French, like super fancy aristocrat people hanging around, you know, like watching Doctor Who, where they had that episode where they see Marie Antoinette through all the different
portals in the spaceship.
Portals, or there's so many documentaries, movies, and stuff about Versailles and TV shows.
I guess I just haven't exposed myself to a lot of like pop culture with Versailles in it, because the only thing I ever think about is furniture. So
there's a TV show I watched recently. Oh, Outlander. In Outlander, where they go to hang out at the French dude's house all the time. I don't know. And maybe it's just because I watch Outlander. He doesn't watch Outlander. You can't hear my shrugging
because I've never watched barely any of Outlander.
He only watches the really bad parts.
I walk in, I'm like, is that happening? Yup. Okay, cool. I'll catch you later when there's context to this.
Anyway, I always just imagine fancy dresses, wigs, things like that. And I never would have thought that I would be doing a topic on it for our podcast, where we usually cover hauntings and creepy creatures and things like that.
And prophecies.
And prophecies. True crime, we do that too. But apparently there are tales of ghosts and even time slips when it comes to the Palace of Versailles. So I thought that was really interesting. And yeah, so let's get into it. So some background for those of you that don't know anything about the Palace of Versailles, like Adam. Honestly, I don't really know too much about it either. I had to look a whole bunch of stuff up because I literally only know what I see on TV. And that's obviously not the real thing. So the Palace of Versailles is an absolutely opulent place, and it was the royal residence of France from 1682 to 1789. So that's over 100 years.
That's pretty good.
Yeah.
Side question. What does opulent mean?
Isn't that like super fancy?
I don't know. That's why I'm asking you. Learn something new every day. That's pretty impressive shit. Good job, Robin.
Thanks.
Good jobbing.
Okay. Apparently, it began with Louis the 14th. I'm going to say Louis. It's obviously not Louis. This is fucking France, right? It's Louis the 14th. And it ended with Louis the 16th. And it's about 12 miles, or more appropriately, 20 kilometers, since we are in France, southwest of Paris.
Okay.
And it has about 2,300 rooms, 67 staircases, and covers 67,000 square meters.
Jesus.
So it's huge. Just the staircases, though, I'm like, no thanks. I hate stairs. Can they install elevators in this thing?
How many stories tall is this place?
I don't think it's very tall at all. It's just, it spans a lot of space.
Right on.
Because back then, they couldn't build up. You just build out, you know? They didn't have the technology in the 1700s that we do now.
Yeah, I can see that. I feel like they just wanted to take up more space with this place, though.
I totally believe it. There was a movie or a TV show. My life is all about TV and movies, okay? But where they show the woman who, I don't know if it's fake, but this woman designed the Palace of Versailles and how all the issues that they went through with designing it and all this stuff. It was really, really cool, but definitely wanted to make that shit fancy, you know?
It sounds like at the very least they made it enormous, so that's partly fancy.
Yeah, you might have heard of Marie Antoinette, a pretty notable historical figure that can be connected to the palace. It went through quite a lot during the French Revolution. When the royal family left during the turmoil of the revolution in the 18th century, the palace was locked up, but they never returned because they got murdered.
What the fuck?
In 1792, the new government had all the paintings and sculptures sent to the Louvre. In 1793, it saw the abolition of the French monarchy, and all the property in the palace was sold at auction, which is absolutely insane.
That's why I watch those auctions out here in Vegas. Hell yeah, Clark County auctions. Something that I'm super addicted to now. And there's like, hotels go out of business. All of a sudden, everything pops up on this Clark County auction website. You can get like the same...
I think this is like the third episode you've brought it up.
I don't think I've ever brought it up before, actually.
Are you
Maybe
sure?
Once before, but I've just been talking about it a lot lately. It's like, you have this giant, massive dining room table that's been in so many hotel rooms, there's like 90 of them, so you can get one for like $10 fucking. It's crazy. I'm just saying, I want to start my own hotel out here.
Oh, okay. So even the ornamental fleur-de-lis that decorated the whole place were chipped off the walls.
Wow.
It's insane. They took everything out of there, right? And they turned this incredible space into a glorified storage unit. It's just, they started putting stuff in there, like art and whatever, and just had it there stored. It wasn't anything fancy. At one point, Napoleon Bonaparte was the Emperor of France and thought about taking it up as his new residence. But the cost to renovate the whole place was way too expensive. I mean, imagine how huge this place is. And it's, how could you even afford it?
Some would say he was the one true emperor, just saying... Oh, wait, you've never seen Count of Monte Cristo. Never mind.
No. You always talk about the Count of Monte Cristo, and I always thought it was about vampires, but it's not, apparently.
Because there's a count in it. It's a very...
Yeah, that's why I thought it was about vampires.
Very good movie.
Okay.
I mean, it's an even better book, but whatever.
Anyway, the same goes for all the people, well, not all. The same goes for a bunch of people afterward, too. So, until Louis Philippe came into power. So once he came into power, he's like, yo, we're turning this storage unit into a museum. This place is sick. Why are we just sitting on it? Why?
I thought you were going to say this place fucks. I was so excited for it.
Dude, okay, so I was watching a John Oliver video, and I love him. I think he's absolutely hilarious.
He's so funny.
But at the end, he said it was like a
song.
It was a Vietnamese song about washing your hands to prevent the coronavirus. And the entire episode, he keeps playing this song because he's like, this song slaps. And at the end, he says, this song fucks. And I was just like, what the fuck?
I heard him say that. I was like, we've made it. There you go. They clearly said that because he's a listener of our show.
I was laughing so hard.
If he would have said this song ducks, I would have peed my pants because then I would have actually thought that he actually listens to our show.
I don't think so. I mean, I'm not going to put myself down because John Oliver, if you listen to this show, like, I love you, man. It's so funny. Okay, anyway. I'm not just like, hit me up because I'm not about that life, but...
Anymore. Eventually she'll talk about David Tennant, and the next thing you know, she'll be about that life again.
I don't know. I love his wife. David Tennant's wife is just so stinking cute.
Aw, that's
so
cute.
I can't really... I'm like... I don't know. Anyway, eventually, Louis Philippe was overthrown himself. France, went through so much shit. A lot of just political upheaval. It was absolutely insane. So this guy got overthrown himself, but he did get a lot of work done when it came to restoration and renovation. I think he even tore down a whole wing and built it back up again so it would match the rest of the house or palace. I guess it's not a house, but he did a whole bunch to try and make it all nice and pretty again.
I liked your fancy voice. It's not a house.
The palace went on to be used for grand ceremonies, and even to this day, French Senate / Parliament meets in the palace on special occasions, like the signing of the Treaty of Versailles. So some important things, they're like, yeah, let's meet at this fancy French place we got.
I mean, it makes sense if you have a place that gigantic. It's almost as big as, the Las Vegas Convention Center, which I absolutely got fucking lost in. That place is enormous.
I had no idea where you were.
I was on the other side of the South Hall, which was 2 city blocks away. I was fucking shocked how big that place was.
That's insane.
But I mean, this place sounds even bigger than that. So.
Oh, yeah. This place has 1 million fountains in the gardens. It has huge gardens. It has multiple buildings on the property. This place is just fancy and ginormous. It's just insane.
I'm excited to post the picture of this place on our Instagram tomorrow.
Oh, cool. Nice.
I want to see it with my eyeballs.
Restoration does go on, and it is certainly not cheap. I mean, how much money goes into making sure all the everything, the gardens and everything gets kept up and the fountains don't look like shit.
I mean, imagine renovating one room where you're like, I really do want this room to look good.
And then do it 2,300 more times.
Yeah, that's in-fucking-sane.
Oh my gosh. And these rooms are not plain either. There's super fancy, there's gold paint and fancy wallpaper, and they've spent a lot of money to get all the paintings and furniture back.
And just the wood itself of the room, the structure of the room itself has got to be very ornate. I've seen Versailles collections for a lot of furniture places.
Oh, come on.
And they're always really pretty. I'm pretty sure, by the way, my old king size, my old California king bed.
Was that a Versailles collection?
Was from the Versailles collection, because it was also the prettiest coloring. It was dark black wood with black cherry on the headboard. And I was like...
Sounds cherry.
That's pretty good. It was so nice.
Yeah,
I'm picturing basically that everywhere all over this place. As you're saying it, I'm like, this place fucks.
I miss having a giant California king bed. I miss it. Now we're on this queen bed and we're like,
yeah, now she has to steal 5 feet versus 6 feet of bed.
All right, so a place with so much history and change over the years is bound to have some strange things happen. And one such thing is a fairly well-known instance of an impossible sighting. It's even been written in a book titled The Adventure, and it was a bestseller when it came out in 1911, and it was a big talking point for a while. 1911. I should have looked up things that happened in 1911.
Y'all remember 1911, don't you?
I think...
Chewing gum was a thing.
Fred Astaire was 12.
Betty White was -13, somewhere around
Shut
there.
up.
She wasn't born until the 20s, I'm pretty sure.
Oh, got it. Okay.
Maybe, I don't know. Yeah, I think that's about right. I'm pretty
Betty
sure
White is older than sliced bread.
Exactly. And sliced bread, I'm pretty sure, was 1925 or 26.
It's insane.
But we're talking about 1911.
Yeah, 1911. And it goes to the tune of this. August of 1901... 2 English women, Charlotte Ann Moberly, who was 55, and Eleanor Jourdain, who was 38, were visiting Versailles. And they were specifically in the area of Marie Antoinette's hideaway, half a mile north of the main palace. And this area that they were in is just a maze of paths and some streams. There's trees. There's also...
Imagine someone coming to your house and them going half a mile away, or just say 1.5 miles away?
Half a mile.
Just imagine them going half a mile away from your front door and being like, yep, they're still at my house. My house is huge.
Well, and you have to think they have a whole bunch of people on the property, too. It's not just like they're wandering by themselves and no one can see them kind of thing.
Right.
At least that's how I think. Maybe they were by themselves. Who knows? It's 1911.
I'm just thinking, if you slept in a different room every night, you could sleep in a new room for like 6.5, 7 years.
It's insane.
That's fucking nuts.
Anyway, yeah, so trees, small buildings, there were bridges and stuff. It's also home to what's known as the Queen's Grotto. And this is where the Kreen? Fuck.
They're the bad guys from Marvel. Oh, no, those are the Skrulls.
Oh,
wait, you're right.
No,
it was
the
Kree.
Yeah.
Yeah, my bad.
Skrulls?
The Skrulls are also bad guys.
Which ones are
They're
those?
the shapeshifters.
And the Kree is the,
assholes.
Yeah.
They're the Jude Laws.
Oh, yeah, Jude Laws.
They're the young Dumbledores.
Aw. He's really good as young Dumbledore. I honestly think he's really good as young Dumbledore.
I think Jude Law's pretty good in general. I'm just like, when did he stop dressing in hot 3-piece suits that make him look like a nice slice of man meat and decide to put on those fucking robes
oh my God.
and look like a fucking weirdo?
Now I'm just thinking of Adam Driver fever. Bash my knees. Oh my God. Seriously, this John Oliver video made me just die laughing. Okay. So this Queen's Grotto is where the Queen could be found when she was first told of the coming revolutionary mob. So when they were like, bro, they're coming to overthrow you. You need to get the fuck out of here, kind of thing.
She was in the grotto like, damn it, I'll hide in one of my 2,300 rooms.
Jeez.
They'll never find me.
Supposedly, this area is known to cause a sense of disorientation to those who visit the area. So that's kind of creepy, that you just kind of feel like out of place or lost or whatever.
Well, it's like if you're trying to build a property that's like on a ley line or is touching some form of like time slip
I didn't even think about ley
bizarre
lines.
portal. I mean, if you just build a place this fucking big, eventually you're going to overlap with one of those things, maybe all of them.
I hear that if you build it, they will come.
I hate you so Well, they built it, and then the revolution
Oh,
came,
yeah, they did.
Yeah, I guess you're right.
So in 1901, Moberly was a principal at an Oxford college, St. Hugh's, and Jourdain was the headmistress of a girls' school. I guess what happened was Moberly went on a short vacation, came back, and Jourdain was appointed as like vice principal or something like that. And so they just ended up working together, becoming friends. So these two were on a little vacation sightseeing Paris for 3 weeks. And according to the two of them, they came across a number of people on this walk. They came across a number of people in 18th century garb, so clothes from the 1700s, and some of which even spoke to them, which is super weird. They just thought that it was like cosplay or something. And not literal cosplay, because that word probably didn't even exist back in the 1900s.
Period piece clothing,
like early
from
1900s.
People who were enthusiasts.
Yeah. But yeah.
So like furries, but for the 1700s.
No, because furries are a category all their own, I feel like. Because furries aren't necessarily cosplay. Furries are just like a different persona of you. They're your fursona.
Wow.
Okay.
Words I didn't know existed until today. What was the other one? Crossplay?
Crossplay. Yeah, I told Adam what crossplay was the other day. He had no idea.
I hope you're saying that, and most of the folks out there are like, what the fuck is crossplay? Please explain.
I hope so many of you know what crossplay is. I'm not going to explain because I want people to like post on Facebook and stuff and just...
No.
Okay. Because I want to know. Who knows? Who out there knows what it is? Let us know. I would love to know if that's...
Say no a few more times.
No, okay. Anyway, so these two were slightly lost, but they just kept on walking. And then things started to happen. So it started with a woman who was shaking a sheet from the window of a building, which this building was later found out to no longer exist. They saw farming equipment that was not of that era. Then there were a pair of quote-unquote ill-mannered, what they thought to be gardeners, but they were Swiss guards, followed by who they described to be a repulsive-looking man with a pockmarked face leaning on a balustrade next to a rocky outcrop. What's a balustrade, you might ask, is a fancy railing.
I kind of figured that's what it was,
Okay.
but I didn't know.
Because your face is just like, I don't know what that is.
I was just picturing this pockmarked faced man and wondering whether or not he's Freddy Krueger.
I just think it's rude to say that this guy was repulsive looking. How rude, you know?
What if your guardian angel is ugly? Do you really want to be that person? I'm just saying.
Yeah. Who knows? But whatever. Anyway, this guy was wearing a long cloak and a slouch hat, and just clothes that weren't of the century either. It just, everybody's clothes were kind of out of place in the 1900s. And they continued on and saw a woman with a young girl standing on some stone steps of a cottage. And this cottage no longer exists. They were dressed in crinoline dresses down to their ankles. The younger girl was wearing a white cloth cap. So it's something that you wouldn't see someone wearing in the 1900s.
She was like under his eye.
May the Lord open. Adam hates it when I just say all those stupid lines from A Handmaid's Tale.
All the time.
It's just because it's so funny. It's like that episode of Letterkenny where they're sitting in the Jeep and the Mennonites are coming to talk to them and they say all these things and those two guys are just like, blessed be the fruit.
Under his eye. Yeah, but they only
because
say it
it's a
once.
Hulu show.
You say it all the time, dude.
After this, they see a handsome man who seems to be out of breath, wearing a wide-brimmed hat, and he approaches them and tells them to go back to the palace immediately. Finally, Moberly saw a woman sketching, who she said could only have been Marie Antoinette herself. Jourdain claimed to have not actually seen her, but to have felt a sort of presence while they were there. And the thing is, by then, by 1901, Marie Antoinette had already died. She died in 1793 at the age of 38. And she was more murdered, really. Her husband.
Sounds like a lot of these folks were murdered.
She was beheaded. She'd been dead for 108 years. So these women were seeing someone who'd been dead for 108 years. So how could they possibly have seen her? Let's get into it.
Time slips, or they're lying, or they were hallucinating.
So they both did a bunch of research after what they saw.
I think I said they both did a bunch of acid before they went, and they saw crazy shit.
Well, see, people were saying, like, because it was a hot day in August, and they were lost, and they were just getting tired, and they just started seeing, you know what I mean? Anyway, they both did a bunch of research after what they saw, and came to the conclusion that what they came across was a daydream of Marie Antoinette's while she was imprisoned in 1792, of her last day at the palace in 1789. So according to the two of them, they went back in time to see what it was that she was daydreaming of, which I thought that was really strange, but this is what they published in the book, okay? So they saw what she was daydreaming of, even viewing some things from her point of view at some point. And they assumed this because someone came and told them to go back to the palace immediately. So they assumed, like, they were seeing it from her point of view, someone telling her, like, get the F out of here because this mob is coming to murder you. They did 10 years of research trying to put names to everyone they saw. So they did a lot of work and wanted to figure out all the details to everything that they came across. You know what I mean?
I was going to kind of joke around about the fact that it's a ridiculous conclusion to jump to, but 10 years of research is a lot. And I also jumped to a ridiculous conclusion in my script, so I think I'll just let this play out and see how it goes. All right.
So they commented that nothing strange happened. And it was like, one moment they were walking along, just minding their own business when out of the orange-colored sky. That just popped into my head, and I don't know why. Why it all rhymed?
Stop rhyming so much.
It's from Fallout New Vegas.
Oh, okay.
I mean, it's an actual song.
But it was used in
Fallout New Vegas for their trailer or whatever. Anyway, I say that while I wear my Fallout shirt. I feel so stupid. Anyway, okay. How many times am I going to say anyway? So they were just walking along when they started noticing these people in odd costumes. They didn't see anything weird change. They weren't walking through clouds and then came out on the other end and they saw all this weird stuff.
That sounded like diddle-doo, diddle-doo, diddle-doo.
It was kind of like the two eras just collided with each other seamlessly, you know? Like they just walked into it. And they wrote down what they experienced. Each of them wrote down what they experienced and then compared them to each other. And when they did, they found that they saw things differently at different times. So some saw, at some points they would see different paths, or one path would appear and disappear. They saw different topography. They conceived distances differently as well, which I think is normal. None of this is normal, but Jourdain claimed to have seen more entities than Moberly. So she saw more laborers, a man walking through the woods, even hearing the sound of music. So the hills must have been alive, because
I hate you so much.
Okay.
But did the hills have eyes? That's my Robin
Oh,
comment.
that's funny.
I knew you'd like that one.
Okay. But yeah, so she saw more I can see how they would both have different things that they saw. Some see the discrepancies as a space for doubt, but others think that these differences are due to the unexplainable nature of the whole thing. Because you can't really explain, like, yo, I went through a time slip and we both saw the same thing, you know what I mean? Maybe it was something that they experienced together, but separately at the same time. Like, say they both walked into this time stream or something like that, and each of them saw different points in time at different parts of this walk that they went on, you know? And I think that's normal. And with the whole distances thing, maybe one of them needed glasses. Who knows?
Wow. I like to say I think that's normal to a situation, like you said, that is absolutely not normal.
Yeah, none of this is normal. They published the story under pseudonyms because they were pissed that the Society of Psychical Research was super skeptical. Some people came out and even called them straight up liars, which, rude. These two women were in academia. They were literally, it's Oxford College. You know what I mean?
They invented the comma. Not really.
I get it. Oxford comma.
Yeah. Is that your Oxford laugh?
They wanted to research and make sure that they could figure out who each of the people they saw were. It wasn't like they just made all this stuff up to make it up. These people were smart. I mean, technically, if you're smart, you could lie too. But I feel like as women in academia, why would you want to ruin your stake at these huge...
Why would you risk your reputation to tell such a... I don't know, polarizing story that would obviously bring out skeptics unless you were just telling the truth. I understand that mindset.
Yeah, they were highly respected. Why would you want to risk it? There's obviously no conclusive evidence on what the women saw, but it is a fun story. I think it's a fun story. I've covered time travel before, and the idea of a time slip isn't completely out of the way for me. I just think it's really cool. I've covered it before where that pilot went into like some time stream type thing.
And the Gettysburg elevator.
Yeah. Wait, Gettysburg elevator?
You're the one that told the story.
Yeah. Where they saw all the soldiers at the yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, there's an episode of Torchwood where the plane comes in. I love, Doctor Who and Torch was so good. I think that there are places that happen to be little gateways, little time gateways that allow people to see strange things, like the house that you covered in a previous episode where the girl or woman saw the two men sitting in the kitchen. A number of people have claimed to see the ghost of Marie Antoinette in both the gardens and inside the palace. Some report paranormal activity within the Queen's living quarters. Things like temperature drop, strange mists have been said to occur, objects move on their own, and sometimes glass objects just shatter. King Louis XVI has been cited far less than the Queen, but still, he's seen walking through the halls of the actual palace and is said to look like he's deep in thought before he just disappears. Some people like to say, like, maybe he's looking for his wife and child, you know what I mean? Which is super duper sad. But it's just, historically, so much happened. And I'm not surprised that there are echoes of things that happen, you know? It's pretty cool. Today, the palace is understandably a historical monument and a UNESCO World Heritage Site, so it's protected. In 2017, it received approximately 7,700,000 visitors, making it one of the most visited monuments in France, behind the Louvre and ahead of the Eiffel Tower.
Ahead of the Eiffel Tower? Holy shit.
I mean, that's in 2017, though. Who knows what it's like? It's 2020 now.
Yeah, it might go back and forth, but still, like, that's incredible.
That's pretty cool. I thought it was really neat that something like this happened. I thought it was really cool. I had no idea. It was pretty neat.
Time slips are always super interesting, especially for places that have so much history, you know?
Yeah.
Like, if you do time slip and you're not in some person's daydream, what happens if you change something? Like, the butterfly effect could just change the entire world. I'm just saying. Be careful. Don't step on that butterfly.
Wow. All right. Cool.
So, right on. So, before we move on to my topic, we are going to go ahead and take a quick commercial break. And we are back. So this week I finally decided to cover a topic I've been sitting on for quite some time. This is one I've wanted to do since before starting the show because it is just so bizarre and worth conversation. This is something that simultaneously triggers both parts of my skeptical side.
Where you want to believe.
Well, it's like the side that says this part is clearly fake, and then the other part that says there's no way this could have happened any other way due to all the evidence. You know what I mean?
Uh-huh.
Where one is, if you don't believe, you're just being ignorant because there's too much evidence, and then the other part is, if you do believe, there's absolutely no evidence. In fact, there's evidence to the contrary. So my skeptical side really gets activated by this, or triggered, as the kids say. It also overlaps with two things I love, the space-time continuum and the Simpsons. So, without further ado, dear listener, I present to you the Simpsons Prophecies, which I hope at some point will be as famous as the Mothman Prophecies.
Okay.
So first and foremost, I have mentioned many times during this show that the year of my birth was 1985. Y'all remember 1985, right? Well, you should, because I've already recapped it for you once before.
Anything new?
Out. Nah, not really, dog.
Oh,
Two major things I always want to highlight for 1985. One, the Bears had their Super Bowl season that year, and just to avoid any technicalities, the year started in 1985. The Super Bowl was played in 1986, but it was the 1985-86 season in which the Bears won their Super Bowl. And of course, 1985, I was born. May 11th, best day ever. One side note, though. A film came out that year that started a franchise. It's a very famous franchise. It is still around, although it's not active. It's dormant. It's only a matter of time, though. That film was called Back to the Future. And it was super successful. In fact, I didn't realize this until today. It was the highest grossing film of 1985.
Okay, I'm very curious as to how the Back to the Future is going to tie into The Simpsons.
You will see. Back to the Future made $389.1 million in 1985. That today would be $932.9 million. Almost $1 billion.
Does this have to do with the Cubs prophecy?
No, it does not. Which also is not really a prophecy because
it was 1 year off.
They missed it. But why do I bring this up? Because it is only fitting that a child of 1985 be the one to crack the mystery of time travel. And that's exactly what I'm going to do here.
Gosh, okay.
I wrote that bullet point and then I cracked it, so I'm pretty proud of myself about that. Being a child born in 1985, I am uniquely qualified because Back to the Future was my jam, and most importantly, I am the perfect age to have been a child when The Simpsons first started. I remember people thought it was so controversial.
You were alive when it first started?
1989, yeah. I think 88 it was on the Tracy Ullman Show as a short, and then it was just going over it was like Marge putting Maggie to sleep and singing Rockabye Baby, and Maggie's like daydreaming the literal words of the song and being absolutely terrified when she goes to sleep, and then eventually got its own show. But yeah, I was around when it first started. Like, that was my fucking jam, dude. Like, everyone thought it was controversial because, like, Bart said, "Eat my shorts," and then, 10, 15 years later, you had Cartman and Kyle and Stan and Kenny show up that say things like, "Shut your fucking face, Uncle Fucker," and then everyone got over it.
Oh, God, okay.
Truth be told, I can't remember the last time I watched an episode of The Simpsons was. I think I stopped watching after season 12, which was literally 20 years ago.
Yeah, I haven't watched since I was a little kid, like elementary school little kid.
Right, so...
But I mean, it was just starting, too, I feel like, when I was... elementary school.
4 when it just started.
So it was around for 10 years already.
So you were 0. I think it started the year you were born, actually, 1989.
Yeah, so I was probably like 10, younger than 10 when I stopped watching. So that show had already been around for almost 10 years. That's insane.
It's just, it was always such a good show. But even though I left it, and most people that I know don't watch anymore, The Simpsons keeps moving forward.
Do they make new episodes?
They do. They still make new
Shut
episodes.
the front door.
And things started to get a little weird here and there. And as things started to pop up, people have begun compiling lists of things The Simpsons talked about that wound up getting brought up.
When you say lists, how extensive is this?
Really, really, really long. So here's how I want to do the episode, because there's so many of these. People have this tendency to get carried away with the stuff like this in particular, where you see a couple of coincidences and you start connecting dots, and some of them aren't actually dots. And the thing that annoys me about when people do this is you start overwhelming the strong evidence with weak evidence in an attempt to sensationalize the thing. You know what I mean?
All right.
And I'm going to take out my bullshit sifter and dump all instances of quote-unquote Simpsons prophecies, as I'm calling them, into my bullshit sifter and give it a good shake, and we'll see if there's anything left that holds water. I will say up front that any evidence of a prophecy has always been, in my mind, not a reflection of someone's ability to predict the future, which is really what a prophecy is. For me, it's always just triggered this thought in my brain, oh, they have a time traveler working for them. It's the only way they would have known, you know? So that's why I go to time travel. Some of you might be like, The Simpsons Nostradamus.
Maybe that's how they keep the show relevant.
Maybe, but I mean, I think they just pay attention to what's going on in today's...
Or they have a journal from a time traveler who left it and went back home.
Maybe. It might just be like Back to the Future 2. What the fuck's up? It came back already. Look at that.
What?
You've never seen Back to the Future 2?
I think I've only seen the first one.
Oh my god, Biff gets the sports almanac and fucks the whole world up?
What?
Oh yeah, you are just missing out. We got to have a marathon. I love Back to the Future so much. I still love Back to the Future 3, even though it's clearly the weakest. That's the Western one.
What's the band that always plays in Back to the Future? Something Huey and the News?
Huey Lewis and the News?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's The Power of Love.
Oh my lord. Okay, go.
And I can't remember the name of the other one. I think it's Out of Time. Whatever. That might be the license plate, actually. Fuck. Okay.
Get out of here.
So let's do a category name for the first few prophecies I'm going to talk about. And I'm going to name this category the Not a Prophecy category. You could literally do this category for any TV show. Because the wonderful thing about TV shows is that they're social commentary on the times that we live in. Sometimes problems or challenges that we are facing come back around. It just happens. It's natural. So if The Simpsons or any TV show commented on it the first time, or the first time it happened while they were in existence, that doesn't mean they're fucking sorcerers when that old material suddenly becomes relevant again, because we face that. As a side note, I'm a little sad that this feels like something that needs to be explained, but after reading these lists, I just felt like someone needed to say it out loud.
I think history kind of repeats itself. Things happen in cycles. So, like, I'm watching Bones again, and Bones ended a long time ago, but watching through the episodes, I'm like, oh my gosh, that's so relevant to
something. Because there's a pandemic episode you're watching right now?
Or something like that, you know? Some small things like that where I'm like, oh my gosh, this is so relevant right now because it relates to what's going on in my life. But it's because back then something happened where they were like, we're going to make a pandemic episode. So I think history does kind of repeat itself and goes in cycles. And when we watch TV or movies or things like that, and they bring up these topics, it's not that they read the future, but that it's kind of just...
It's happened before.
Yeah.
It will happen again.
Yeah.
So this is going to be a really fun trip down memory lane, and then me ranting a little bit for the first category, but we're going to get into some other stuff, and it's kind of fun. So... stay with me here. Time travel's a thing. I'm about to prove it to you. And then...
I thought it was funny when I went
a little bit deeper than that, too. Keep going.
I think it's funny that I did a time slip thing.
I
and
know.
Then you're like, I'm doing a time thing.
It's just time travel.
I don't know how
weird.
we keep doing that. Like, we match up our topics. It's pretty
our
sweet.
wavelength. It's just we're on the same wavelength. All right, here we go. I have pulled many, many instances from so many lists and so many theories and so many conspiracy theories and fucking YouTube videos on the internet and various forms of media. I haven't pulled them all because, quite frankly... y'all are crazy. Some of the stuff that's been brought up relating to this is bizarre. It
is insane. Like the when I watch clips and when people compare clips to things that happen in real life, I'm like, what? How?
All right, let me dive into them because we got a lot. All right, the first one I'm going to start with is the idea that The Simpsons predicted autocorrect. That wonderful feature that your phone uses to try and figure out what you're trying to say. And this one irks me to no end.
Did it like...
Let me just do it.
Okay.
Folks that want to believe that The Simpsons somehow predicted autocorrect and its inability to understand what the duck I'm trying to say must not have been alive to understand the entire point of the reference made in that specific episode. Before Steve Jobs came back to Apple and made the iPhone, they released this thing called the Newton. And the Newton was, for all intents and purposes, a piece of shit.
Really?
It was terrible. It also came with a stylus and boasted this feature where if you wrote words on the screen with the stylus...
It would snap to text.
Yes, exactly. It would translate it onto text on your phone. The problem is that it was 1994 when this episode came out, and that means that it clearly had been created earlier than that because it released around 1994, if not early 1994. The technology was basically like a miniature chimpanzee trying to run around inside your phone and match the letters that are in text form with whatever you just wrote on the screen. Like, the technology just wasn't there. That is just to say it was just terrible. It was widely mocked by everyone when it released because it just did not work. And it caused Apple a lot of problems. And part of it being mocked was when The Simpsons, the show, had it on their episode to show what a piece of crap it was. Season 6, Episode 8, Lisa on Ice is the episode. It's the episode where Lisa joins the hockey team, which is hilarious because we were watching Letterkenny as we were writing this.
When are we not these days?
It's very true. I absolutely love it. But what happens during this episode is someone writes on the tablet, it translates it incorrectly, and they throw it. And people decided, oh my God, they predicted autocorrect getting things wrong. It's social commentary on the fact that the original, like, scribble to text that was supposed to exist on the Newton, and they literally say, take a note on your Newton, referencing this product that already came out. It's not prophetic, it's social commentary. Everyone just happened to ignore everything about it except that it corrected the word incorrectly. And decided, oh my God, they're sorcerers. How did they ever predict this?
Kind of like how South Park makes fun of all the stuff that happens
as it's happening.
Yeah.
Exactly. So that's the first one. I'm glad I got that one off my chest, because the next one is also annoying, but it's also a little bit interesting. So, folks believe The Simpsons predicted smartwatches.
Huh.
I don't understand how this one wound up on so many lists, because it's like you'd have to ignore so much to believe this one. As a side note, I would like to point out that this episode deals with the future that an adult Lisa lives in, and it will be brought up multiple times during this episode of Scaryish, because it's part of the future, so you see things that is like them predicting what's actually going to happen in the future.
All right.
So, that said, it's Season 6, Episode 19. Obviously, Season 6 was a great season, and honestly, it's because they focused on Lisa a lot. This episode is called Lisa's Wedding. It's a flash forward to the world of tomorrow. Lisa's grown up. She gets a fiancé. Her fiancé is named Hugh, and Hugh is from London. He has a watch that he can talk into. This must be the first time, literally ever, that a TV or film has shown the concept.
Doesn't Star Trek have that too?
Oh, you're going to fucking love this. I'm so glad that you said that. The worst part of this theory is that the fucking sound effect he has when he speaks to his wristwatch is the same exact sound effect from Star Trek, the television show.
Of course it
when
is.
they use their wrist communicators. Because the entire episode references futuristic predictions from other science fiction shows or cartoons. The cars during the show, they're regular cars, but when they're driven, they make the Jetsons sound effect for the Jetsons cars.
Okay.
The whole episode is just nods to other pop culture references about things that would happen in the future. I just wish people would pay attention, because then they wouldn't have to put this on so many lists and so many YouTube videos. But, side note, I remember thinking Hugh, when I was a kid, must be voiced by Hugh Grant. Because he's British.
Was it?
He's very charming. His name is Hugh. And I was looking at it, and literally till tonight, I was like, oh yeah, there's Hugh Grant. I would have fought you if you told me I was wrong. And it was actually Mandy Patinkin who voiced Hugh.
Mandy Patinkin?
I fucking love Mandy Patinkin. I was reading this thing about how, like, the Simpsons cast of regulars state that, like, Mandy Patinkin is one of their, if not their favorite all-time guest for all the times he's come on and done just different voices.
If you don't know who Mandy Patinkin is,
watch The Princess Bride.
Watch The Princess Bride. He's Inigo Montoya. He's so good.
You killed his father, so you should prepare to die. So, okay, we're moving on. The next one, and this one annoys me, not as much as the other ones, because I understand it, but the Ebola outbreak. Again, it was a look backwards, not a look forwards. Ebola's first outbreak happened when it was first discovered, which was in 1976. In The Simpsons, Season 9, Episode 3, entitled Lisa's Sack, so many of these take place during Lisa's episodes. Marge is reading a children's book called Curious George and the Ebola Virus.
Oh, gosh.
And the cover of the book is Curious George in a bed with, like, a sack of ice on his head and, like, a thermometer in his mouth.
No.
It's adorably pathetic. And because Ebola had an outbreak in 2014 to 2016, everyone decided, oh my god, The Simpsons predicted the Ebola outbreak. It was a reference to the outbreak in the 70s, not the future outbreak in 2014. It was, however, conveniently placed right in the middle of both of them, which will give you an idea of, you know, how long it'll take for Ebola to come back around. So I guess in
that's
like
terrifying.
2040, 2045, everyone will be like, when I was a kid, The Simpsons predicted Ebola would come around 60 years later. Okay. This next one's a big one. This next one I thought was real until I did this research. So I think this is another one that made this whole theory that The Simpsons predicts the future pop off, and it kicked everything into overdrive. The problem with this one is that it's total 100% horseshit. And when I started reading up on it, I immediately knew these are all lies. And I am of course talking about Donald Trump's candidacy for president. Oh,
when he went down the escalator?
Correct. So there is a meme or a viral video that shows Donald Trump coming down the escalator.
That's the video I was referencing.
Where you're like, how?
Yeah,
how is this possible? And someone, when he's coming down the escalator,
someone flips the poster.
Someone on the second floor, like, lets go of the sign, and it falls to the ground. And it's a very specific framing of the shot, where you have the escalator where he's, like, coming down on the escalator, like, moving through the center of the shot.
Yeah.
And it is very it's identifiable. And this theory states that The Simpsons aired a clip that mimics this identically in the year 2000. Okay? The clip also shows Trump speaking at a podium with a logo that looks identical to the logo he actually wound up choosing for his 2016 presidential run. And aside from the slogan being changed, it looks exactly like it, which is just mind-blowing.
But the thing with that is people could see this clip and be like, yo, we're going to make it look
a
exactly
self-fulfilling
like
prophecy.
It. Yes.
But the sign dropping thing is what this theory really leans on. Is like, how could they predict this? This came out in 2000. And when I read 2000, I was like, I was still watching The Simpsons in the year 2000. This clip did not air at any point in any episode when I was still watching The Simpsons. One, the animation is different. Like, the artists are different, the animation is different, so I was like, I call horseshit on this. And two, I remember a Donald Trump reference, but it was not this at all. So I was like, I'm going to read up on it, and I'm going to see how it goes. Because I was watching back then. That was season 11. I watched up to the end of season 12. So I'm like, y'all fucked up. Like, now you're challenging my Simpsons knowledge, which to this point is limited. But before, it was extensive. I had watched every episode. I would record it in my shitty little VCR on my 19-inch screen TV Sunday night. And as soon as it was over, I would rewind it and I'd watch it and watch it and watch it until I went to sleep. I know those episodes. Just saying. So, the episode they reference as the episode that this took place is Bart to the Future. As soon as I heard Bart to the Future, which is again a reference to Back to the Future, which I already brought up once, I was like, this is lies. Bart to the Future is an episode about a down-on-his-luck adult Bart trying to get his shit together, and he starts to hit up Lisa for help. Lisa just so happens to be the President of the United States of America at the time. She just got elected. One of the things I remember from this episode is she references Donald Trump as her predecessor as president, and she references, like, how she needs to clean up some of the stuff that Trump left behind.
Okay.
So
that's kind of weird.
That's it, though. That's it. The sign drop, the escalator shot, the super specific
someone
thing,
just animated that themselves?
the podium, that was part of a clip called Trump-tastic Voyage. That clip aired on July 7th of 2015. It's not an episode. It's like a promo for The Simpsons. A month after that event actually took place. Trump's announcement and that scene where he's coming down the escalator and him speaking at the podium happened in June of 2015. And because this actual clip, this Trump-tastic Voyage, was only like a minute and 40 seconds, it was done in that month to show Donald Trump announced his presidency, and then that shows like Homer standing behind him on the escalator and being like, "Where am I?" And it's like his Trump-tastic voyage, like he accidentally winds up being around Trump while all this stuff is happening. And it was a reflection again of things that actually happened. Someone took that friggin' clip and stated on the internet that it came from that 2000 episode, that episode in the year 2000, and so many people didn't question it. They absolutely did not question it.
That's the problem with the internet. You never know.
Unless you watched Bart to the Future and you know this person is full of shit. Aside from that reference in 2000, that is the only indicator there was any sort of prediction going on here or prophecy. And I'm just going to say that even then, saying that Donald Trump was the previous president was not far-fetched because he had been talking about running for president since the 80s. And even then, he talked about running in 2000, which is when this episode came out. So again, it was topical and talking about something that happened at the time.
Oh, you're
so
ruining my...
This one is nonsense, but I will say, keep listening.
Okay.
Because there's two that I got so into, I decided I'm finding the time traveler. Like, I need to know who it is. So I know I'm ripping them apart right now, but we're about to get into a new category here in a second, because when I read this one, when I saw Bart to the Future, the 15-year-old Adam inside of me was like, you're wrong, Fart Breath. Like, I'm going to go ahead and prove you wrong.
All right.
Fart breath wasn't something I actually said. I was just kidding about that.
Okay.
I was a sophomore in high school at 15, so I think my things were like, talk to the hand, and like, what's up?
Whatever, mental loser. Did you used to do that?
No, I never used to do mental loser.
No, yeah, whatever, mental loser.
I remember whatever loser, but I didn't do that one either. I think that was one that the ladies did in the school.
Oh,
I used to yell "what's up" at people that walked by me in the hallway.
The front door.
And every single person yelled it back until our speech teacher and our math teacher came out of their classrooms and were like, "Shut the hell up." I was
know what, though?
Oh no, I'm in trouble.
They're probably our age now. You know what I mean?
I'm the age they were when that happened.
Yeah, and they're just like, I hate these children so effing much.
It was just so funny to yell it at people in the hallways and they'd yell it back. What's funny is when I was trying to figure out, like, what the hell was actually being said, what was the slang in the year 2000, I realized, this is really depressing, I still say so much of this stuff now. Like, dog, D-A-W-G.
Okay.
I think it's because of American Idol.
Really?
Peace out. I still say peace out. My bad. My bad started around then. Cool beans.
Yeah, but those are like staples in...
Are they though? Or do we just think they're staples because we're old asses?
Oh no! Oh, maybe that's what it is.
Cool your jets.
I don't say that.
Yo.
Oh, I say yo.
These are all the things that have been credited to the year 2000. Most of these things were said before then. And as a side note, I just want to reiterate, I really hate how dumb the internet is sometimes at saying these things are only from the year 2000. It's like, nah. Nah. The next category we're going to cover. We're moving out of these. These are horseshit. They were skeptical. The next category is, I guess it is a prophecy, but fucking duh. So these are things that were accurately predicted, but the writing was on the wall that these things were going to happen. And someone else could have predicted it, and in fact, a lot of the other presences in media also teased at these things. The first one I'm going to cover is FIFA, because this one was pretty friggin' obvious. FIFA is and has always been one of the most notoriously shitty refereed leagues of sports on the planet. The referees are always just super shady. You don't understand the difference why one thing's a yellow and one thing's a red when they seem like the exact same foul. And a lot of times, decisions of whether or not someone's offsides or disallowing a goal or allowing a goal that should be disallowed changes the result of the game or match, whatever. Simpsons, Season 25, Episode 16, episode titled, You Don't Have to Live Like a Referee, instead of refugee or whatever it is.
Oh, gosh, okay.
It deals with Homer refereeing the World Cup, and gangsters try to bribe him.
How is Homer refereeing?
It's The Simpsons. Like, all these things, all these premises have gotten so ridiculous by Season 25.
Okay.
The episode came out in 2014. The next year was 2015, and FIFA got hit hard that year. There was bribery scandals, fraud, coercion, corruption, game fixing, money laundering, tons of arrests, so many officials, not just like referees, but people who like decide to like host cities, people who arranged events.
Oh,
were
see,
tied
I know
to
about
this,
the
like,
host
criminal
cities
ring,
thing. Yeah.
all that shit, and so many people got arrested. And it was really bad for the sport, but it was really nice to see so many crooked zebras being taken down because there's so many times that they've fucked over games.
Good.
But I guess it's an accurate prediction of something that everyone kind of already knew. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But they did predict it, but so did a lot of other people.
I was going to say.
The next one, and this one I think is something everyone joked about, Siegfried and Roy being attacked by that tiger.
Everybody knew it was going to happen.
Everyone knew it was going to happen. Season 5, Episode 10. The episode name was Springfield, but the S is a $, cash money, dollar bills,
okay.
dirty money 2020. They built a casino in Springfield, and one of the things they did was recruit an act where these two guys looked identical to Siegfried and Roy, and they had a tiger running around on a tricycle, and they were whipping it, and it remembered suddenly how they had captured it, and so it decided to maul them. 10 years later, I think almost to the day actually, 10 years later, the tiger known as Montecore that had been in Siegfried and Roy's act for years...
Did it, like, bite his leg or something?
It attacked Roy, and it bit him by the neck.
Oh, God.
And it took multiple attempts for them to let him go. And I put on my script, attacked is a term I use loosely. He grabbed Roy by the fucking neck, but did not kill him, which requires more effort for a giant, powerful creature with massive teeth than actually just killing him. A lot of folks say that Roy did something wrong. A lot of folks said that the tiger was concerned for Roy's safety because he stumbled or something like that. But he was clearly putting in his 2 weeks notice as him being done with this fucking show.
Oh, really?
I'm talking about the tiger.
Oh,
I don't think it was written or anything like that.
Well, I mean, if the tiger was going to kill him, it would have killed him.
It would have just killed him. So, definitely a weird thing. Everyone knew sooner or later that tiger was going to snap.
Maybe it was like, you know how people have emotional support animals? Maybe he was an emotional support tiger, and he was about to have a panic attack, and the tiger's like, you need to chill.
It's okay, I got you. Let me take you up in my jaws. The thing that should be the most terrifying, most anxiety-filling
That's how cats carry around their kids.
It is. It 100% is. And also, though, their kills. That is how they carry around their kills. But it did not kill Roy. Roy's still alive, just so you know. Like, he's retired now, shocker. But he is still alive. So, yes, it did wind up happening 10 years later. But also, side note, no shit. So,
okay.
The next one's kind of interesting. But again, writing on the wall. This one is the myth that they predicted Disney would buy 20th Century Fox. So, it was season 10, episode 5.
Okay, but wasn't that going on for so long before it actually happened?
But this is like 20 years prior. So it hadn't started yet. It started like in the 2010s. So they were talking about it actively. Let me get to it. Season 10, episode 5, When You Dish Upon a Star is the name of the episode. If you don't remember it, Homer basically becomes a personal assistant to Alec Baldwin and Kim Basinger, who are hiding out in Springfield to get away.
That sounds absolutely ridiculous.
It's such a fun episode. Ron Howard's also in it. At one point, you see the outside of the 20th Century Fox television studio building, and under their logo, it says, quote, a division of Walt Disney Co., which was a hilarious joke back then. A fun little joke, self-effacing, because the Fox television network has never been a network that is on top of the world or the network ratings.
The Simpsons weren't always on Fox, though, right?
Always.
They were always on Fox?
Literally always. They still are.
Okay.
They're always on Fox. And Fox, as a network, has struggled. It was always very well known. And folks have always talked about the possibility of Disney taking it over. Disney owns ABC. I think they actually might own CBS, too.
I know they own ABC. I don't know about CBS,
They own everything at this point. But it was always spoken about, very long rumored, and then it happened. It was officially done as of March 2019, so not even a year ago when it was like officially approved. Everything went through, and I don't know if you know this, since it was kind of unclear which pieces of Fox Television actually went to Disney, because I knew the news network stayed with Rupert Murdoch and the remainder of the Fox empire of what's left of it. The Simpsons, on the other hand, are definitely under the Disney umbrella along with 20th Century Fox.
Can we watch The Simpsons on Disney Plus now?
I think so, yeah. I'm pretty sure they picked it up. So, I'm pretty sure Homer will be the new big bad in the next Avengers movie, starring Ewan McGregor as Obi-Wan, because, like I said, they own everything. Star Wars, Simpsons, Marvel, probably DC
they
Comics
own Hulu,
soon too.
Or a big portion of Hulu.
Right, so...
National Geographic.
Gonna keep moving through these. The voting machine
Do they own ESPN?
Yeah, they do. They absolutely do.
You know what's funny? Do. If you guys ever look at the ESPN logo, the literal ESPN, the N is a Mandalorian.
Is it? Oh, yeah, you're right. All right, I'm going to keep moving through because we got a lot more to go. So, voting machine era. Season 20, episode 4. It was Treehouse of Horror. Number 19. It's not even one of the stories. It was the cold open for it. because this voting machine murders Homer, spits him out, and then says, like, Treehouse of Horror. Homer tries to vote. It was 2008 when this episode aired, so it was Obama versus McCain. Obama was on the left, McCain was on the right, and it was a touchscreen. You just had to press one to vote. Each time Homer pressed down, he was trying to vote for Obama. The voting machine would select John McCain. That's who he was selecting.
My Lanta.
So he was like, why is this happening? So how is this prophetic? It didn't happen in 2008, but in 2012, when it was Obama versus Romney, there was an actual voting machine. There's a viral video. You can Google it and watch it, where someone keeps pressing Barack Obama, and it keeps putting a check mark next to Mitt Romney. Real life, actual voting machine. They had to decommission the thing.
Holy cow.
Because it wasn't working. So anyone who didn't pay attention to it when they were trying to vote, like, they would have voted for the wrong person.
Oh my gosh.
I think it was in Pennsylvania. So, which is a swing state, by the way.
That's messed up.
So, did not happen. Also, another thing that's part of this whole, like, Simpsons predicting politics thing is that at one point there's a map of the electoral states in the background of an episode that shows how each state went for the 2016 election, but it was actually an episode for the 2012 election that showed that Romney was supposed to win. And Romney, of course, did not win in the 2012 election.
Right.
So that thing that was supposed to be applying to 2012 very, very specifically, because Burns apparently becomes like a Romney supporter.
Happens in 2016.
It wound up happening in 2016, but basically the map went where if most of the swing states went red instead of blue.
Okay.
So it's not something that's like totally like not feasible, but yeah, they accidentally got it right for the wrong year. So that's the voting machine error. Obviously, it's not shocking that it predicted this exact scenario because a lot of folks all over the place, like TV, music, film, books, always talk about elections being rigged because it's something everyone always worries about. And there's no more famous incident than when incumbent Governor Evelyn Tracy rigged that election against her challenger Al Donnelly. I don't know if you all remember that. She was initially proclaimed the winner of the election until Donnelly's brother Mike arrived at her celebratory event at her home with proof of voter fraud from deceased individuals.
Oh my gosh.
The race was overturned, and yes, I did just describe the plot and eventual resolution of the movie Black Sheep with David Spade. You don't remember this movie?
What?
David Spade and Chris Farley.
Never seen it.
You've never seen Black Sheep?
No.
Well, now you know what's going to happen in it. But just an example of something that came around the same time that also was just showing a common thing in pop culture that everyone always worries about. So, not shocking that someone predicted election meddling. Or not even election meddling, but just like voter machine not working.
Yeah.
Alright, this next one starts moving out of this category and moving into our third category. So,
how many categories do you have?
Just 3.
All right.
So, the last one in this category is that the U.S. beats Sweden in curling. And this one is kind of weird. Season 21, episode 12. The episode's name is Boy Meets Curl. Good name.
Oh, these episodes are cute.
Homer, Marge, Principal Skinner, and Principal Skinner's mom somehow go to the 2010 Vancouver Winter Olympics, and after falling behind in the gold medal match for the curling championship, they rally and eventually beat Sweden for the gold medal in curling. And this one is really, really specific. And it's really straightforward because 8 years later in Pyeongchang, China's Winter Olympics, the 2018 U.S. men's Olympic curling team made it to the finals for the first time ever. They, of course, faced Sweden in the finals, so same opponent, and they fell behind early but came back late to win the gold medal.
Wow.
It's only the second time the U.S. has ever earned a medal in the entire event of curling. And
what?
It's really weird because, yeah, it's an 8-year gap, but a sport that most people were not playing too much or paying any attention to, really, in 2010, they made an entire episode about, and we had never historically been good at it, ever, of the U.S. winning. And maybe it's one of those things where it is the self-fulfilling prophecy where the episode spurred additional interest in curling and caused folks to get interested in it. But the same opponent and the same comeback victory is just kind of weird. I think we can all agree that is just kind of weird, especially because Canada had won the last 3 straight gold medals for that. So you figure Canada would be the bad guy, you know?
Yeah.
Including the 2010 event when the episode had come out. Canada had just won the gold medal. The last category we're going to break down is the, quote, go back to the future, you time-traveling demon category.
Oh, gosh, okay.
So there's actually only 2 things in this category, but they're really creepy, okay? So the first one is called the Shard. S-H-A-R-D, not shart. I'm not talking about shit in your pants. The Shard. Season 6, Episode 19, Lisa's Wedding. We've already talked about this episode. It was the smartwatch one where Mandy Patinkin, God, I love him, did the voice for Hugh. When traveling to London with her fiancé Hugh, the show displays a plane traveling into London, and it looks like one of those old biplanes where you have two wings, one stacked on top of the other one, except it has 6 wings to just be funny. Like, oh, look, in the future, like, the wrong technology advanced rather than, like, smarter technology. They just put more wings on the plane.
Okay.
And as it flies into London, it passes Big Ben, which is now a digital clock. Like, oh my God, what a funny goof. In the future, it's a digital clock. That's cute. In the background to the left, you see the London Bridge. And right next to the London Bridge on the left side of the horizon is the Shard. The Shard is a 95-story skyscraper, which is very unique. It is very beautiful. It sits to the left of the London Bridge, making a really beautiful skyline. It's a pointed skyscraper, too. So at the base, it's a square. But as it goes up, like, it starts to come into a point, and the planes themselves... It doesn't actually twist.
Okay.
But they just start to narrow, so that at the top of the 95-story skyscraper, it's like 4 points coming together. Imagine a dunce cap, if it was square instead of rounded, and 95 stories and made of glass.
Like a really long pyramid?
Yeah, and that's exactly what the Shard is. It's very distinctive in shape. There will be a picture on our Instagram of this. So why is this weird? Because this super distinctive skyline that they, of course, have included in the episode that aired on March 19th, 1955, shows the Shard very clearly in the skyline. The Shard didn't begin construction until March of 2009, 14 years later.
But somebody could have been like, yo, have you seen this episode of The Simpsons? We gotta make this fucking building.
But it's like, it's not detailed enough where it's like, we're going to make the building look exactly like that. Like, you'll see the picture where it's like, there's no reason for it to be there unless it's the Shard. You know what I mean? But looking at it and trying to figure, I'm going to make this building look exactly like that. When you see the picture, you're like, there's no way. You don't reverse engineer the Shard from The Simpsons. Like, it's so friggin' weird. This is a perfectly reasonable explanation. I think someone that was attached to this episode is a goddamn time-traveling demon, because it's terrifying.
I don't think so.
So
I think it's possible to be interested in something you see and then building something off of what you saw.
Okay, well then I'm going to show you this picture right now so you can tell me how you build the Shard based off of what was on the episode.
Okay. You have a lot of tabs open.
I always have a ton of tabs open. Sometimes I go like 40 tabs deep.
That's what she said.
This is the Shard.
All right.
Here.
Okay, cool.
Here's another version of the Shard.
Okay.
Here is the Simpsons version of the Shard.
I mean, all right, that's weird.
Yeah, because there's no other reason for this piece to be in this frame. Because as you see when you're looking at the Shard and the London Bridge next to each other, that is exactly where it's supposed to be. But that said, looking at the Shard as it exists now and looking at the animation, like, there's a very distinct placement of something here in the exact spot this building is supposed to be.
Was there a building there?
No, there was not. I checked it. There was nothing there. There was no other buildings that ever resembled the Shard, and certainly not something tall enough that would go there. And even the top is misshapen in the exact same way the Shard's top is misshapen, where it doesn't quite connect.
Okay.
It's weird. It's definitely weird. But there's a reason I didn't save this one for my last one.
Oh, gosh. Okay.
So this one's fucking weird. I'd heard about it. I always rolled my eyes thinking it was nonsense. Then I read into it. I thought the Trump one was going to blow my mind. Then I realized it was lies.
Okay.
And then this one, I was like, okay, what is that? And then I read more on it and then did more backstory. I'm like, time traveler. It's got to be. So, the Higgs-boson equation. Don't know if you guys know what that is, but you're about to find out. Season 10, Episode 2. The episode's called The Wizard of Evergreen Terrace. Air date, September 20th, 1998. Whole premise of the episode is Homer realizes he's at the midway point in his life. He has hit the middle of the life expectancy, and of course he has a midlife crisis. And he starts to look up to Thomas Edison and how much Thomas Edison had done to that point in his life. Like, if you compare your age to someone else who's famous, he just keeps thinking how much more someone else has done than him. He decides to start inventing shit. So what does this have to do with anything? Well, at one point, Homer is writing a complicated math problem on a chalkboard above a drawing of 4 donuts, which is just interesting, you know? It's like, of course he's drawing donuts, he's Homer, but he has this really complicated math problem. And when you look at it, you're like, I wonder if that's even a thing. So, some backstory. In 1964, a guy named Professor Peter Higgs...
This is like the discovery of the Higgs boson particle?
Well, no, not exactly. 1964, Higgs and 5 other physicists used theoretical math to predict the existence of an elementary particle that would, by its very existence, prove that subatomic particles all interact with an energy field that gives them mass. They're predicting through math that something needs to exist that they can't quantify or identify through science that gives everything mass and binds them with an energy field. The concept gives rise to the name, the God particle. Something has to give everything mass, but no one can figure out how or why. They just theorize based off of the math they know, based off of what's missing. There has to be some sort of particle at a subatomic level that gives things basically not their right to exist. That's a weird way to put it, but mass. It actually binds things together.
Okay.
So what does this have to do with the Simpsons episode that aired in 1998? This was 1964. Well, I'm getting there. Hold on. 2013, a particle accelerator was used, and guess what? Can confirm the God particle does exist. We discovered the God particle, the Higgs boson equation, the Higgs boson particle, the God particle.
Is that the particle in Angels and Demons that blows up?
That is the particle.
Shut up!
That is the particle. That's the entire idea behind the particle.
Okay.
Is that the collider. I forget what the full name of it was, but you just shoot like particles at each other and make them collide.
And they blow up.
And they blow up, and then they like break apart into their pieces, and that's how they finally discover this particle. The experiment to discover this particle cost $13 billion dollars.
Oh my
in 2013,
gosh.
That's the cost of the science to discover this fucking thing, okay? It has been studied extensively since then. They have been able to figure out the mass of this nanoparticle and figure out that it binds everything together. It kind of lives up to that nickname it was given of the God particle. So guess what? If you actually do the equation Homer has written on the board when this episode came out in 1998, it is only just barely slightly off the mark from the exact mass of the God particle. If you go through all the math that's on the board and bring it to its final solution, it's the actual mass just slightly off of the God particle.
How much is slightly off?
I don't know, but I'm going to tell you where I got my information from. This happened 18 years before the experiment that discovered its existence ever took place.
Okay.
Yes, it is not exact. And yes, I am taking this on the word, but it is the word of Dr. Simon Singh and his PhD in particle physics from fucking University of Cambridge. He realized when he was viewing the science of what had happened, he was like, this looks very familiar to something I've seen before. And he is an avid Simpsons fan. And he went back and compared the math and was so startled by it, he wrote a goddamn book about it.
What?
About how bizarre
No way.
and how there's no chance they could have accidentally put it on that chalkboard. And as a side note, this dude is a BAFTA award winner for a documentary he worked on and a holder of the MBE. The MBE is an award that stands for Most Excellent Order of the British Empire. It's the highest honor you can bestow upon anyone who has substantial contributions in the arts or sciences. So the advancement of, like, humanity.
Yeah.
He holds that award. He has a ton of other awards. He's written a bunch of fucking books. He wrote
a book on It's
It's like called The Simpsons and the Mathematical Mystery.
Oh,
it's
man.
crazy. The God particle, 18 years before they discovered it. So season 6, they were just dropping hints that they're from the future. But season 10, that's when they decided to show us the way, really. And this is where I had intended to end my script in the episode, but let's be real, we can't get this close and walk away. So I did some more research, and I know we're getting kind of long here, but it's because I need to do this. I just need to. I need to connect the dots on my conspiracy board. So 2 episodes that have references that seem too far-fetched for me to write off as bullshit or coincidence exists. And maybe season 6 was somehow odd, but season 10 is just too weird for me. The God particle thing just messed my brain up. So, okay, there are 127 people to date that have written for The Simpsons. So, who was present for both Season 6 and Season 10? Because I feel like whoever this time traveler is had to have been present for both of those. So, I did some comparisons on the seasons that these folks worked on The Simpsons. And of those 127, only 4 people have written for both season 6 and season 10.
How did you do? Did you like put them all in Excel and then just deleted which ones?
There's a massive list of everyone, and it states like the years that they worked through, so you just compare the years to the seasons.
Okay.
Plus, there's other sites that show you like their bodies of work and the episodes they're credited with. So here we go. 4 people. Now, as a side note, before I get way too deep into my conspiracy theory, the following 4 people are living human beings who also happen to shape my childhood and brought me some of the best television I've ever seen, and let's be real, some of the best television ever, because the first like 12, 15 seasons of The Simpsons are absolutely brilliant. So here we go. 4 people.
Sorry, everybody they came after, apparently.
I haven't watched any of it since, so I can't say anything for it, but I know that that was just everything to me growing up. Okay, 4 people. First one is named Al Jean. He wrote for seasons 1 through 4, 6, 8 through 12, 26, and 29 to 30.
You know what Al Jean sounds like?
What's that?
Alien.
I hate you so much. Then there's John Schwartzwelder. He wrote for seasons 1...
That name is definitely fake.
1 through 15, right? That is just fucking alias written all over it. Then there's Mike Scully. Clearly named after Scully from the X-Files.
Yeah. Oh my gosh.
Scully wrote for seasons 6 through 14. And then there's David S. Cohen, who later changed his name to David X. Cohen. I wonder why, Dave.
No way.
He wrote for season 6 when it started through 10 when it ended. Really weird. So, Al, John, Mike, and Dave.
They all sound sketch.
Right? Al, John, Mike, and Dave. These are actual people that exist, and I love them, by the way. There is only so many theories I can toss out here, because they have birthdays and families and lives, so it's very hard
quote-unquote families.
It's very hard to speculate. I believe that if any one of these guys is a time traveler, they settled and they decided to take up a family. So the birthday thing might be bullshit, but I think the families are real.
Maybe they got reincarnated in the past.
So you think a reincarnation where you carry your memories, where you chain your memories together?
Where you get reincarnated into a past person.
But again, you're chaining your memories together?
Oh, yeah.
Because reincarnation, you typically don't carry...
I mean, if Kingdom Hearts has taught me anything, there's a chain of memories.
So much. All right. So here we go. While I was reading through their histories, because I started reading a lot of stuff about these 4 dudes.
Who's sketchy?
Something struck me. And this is what struck me. Place of birth. Al Jean was born in Farmington Hills, Michigan. It's like, nah, it seems legit. John Schwartzwelder was born in Seattle, Washington. I'm like, no, not weird enough. David S./X Cohen, New York, New York. I'm like, all right. And then Mike Scully. Springfield, Massachusetts.
Shut the fuck up.
I was like, really, Mike Scully? The birthplace just happens to be named Springfield. So this put up my red flag. So I was like, let me look deeper and see how much bullshit I can toss onto this new conspiracy theory.
Out of all this, the names of the people are just the best.
So we got Mike Scully's career listed as active. The active period started in 1986. So I'm like, really, Mike Scully? A year after Marty McFly's origin time is when you just happen to start your career? Seems sketch. So clearly he was looking to get on a show where he could expose as many people as possible to the things he had to communicate. And what season did I say he started again? Yeah, he started in season 6. That was when the Shard first appeared. So it was like just a quick blip. It was just an Easter egg to tease everyone with it.
Or did he not realize that the building didn't exist?
Oh, I don't know if he didn't realize it, but I know he was writing for this show when this happened. So I can just see Mike Scully telling the animation artist, like, yeah, just put a pointy building off to the left of the London Bridge. No, it's good. It looks good there. And he very obviously bided his time after that, not wanting to set anyone off or bring attention to himself. When you mess with time, time messes back. You know, that whole thing.
Okay.
And he waited until season 10, the perfect opportunity. And you know someone in that writer's room was like, what should we put on the chalkboard? And one person's clearly like, donuts, because it's Homer. You have to put donuts on the chalkboard. But someone else in that fucking writer's room thought, like, let's put an actual equation on the chalkboard. And my money is on Mike Scully. Because who would think, let's put an equation on this board and just have it happen to be an equation that when you work it out equals the mass of the God particle? I mean, they're trying to tell us something.
I'm really curious as to the difference, the actual difference.
I guess we'll have to read the book, because I couldn't find enough, but it was enough where it was so sketch that someone's like, I'm writing a book about this because it's terrifying. So that said, it's also important to note that they are given credits for the episodes that they write, because some of them they do write individually. And the episode where the God particle is on the chalkboard is called The Wizard of Evergreen Terrace. I've mentioned that, but that episode is credited to John Swartzwelder. Swartzwelder!
Okay.
It's just the fakest sounding name. So it's just they keep throwing me off the scent. I think all 4 of them are time travelers at this point. So clearly there's more work to be done here. There's more research to do. There's some stalking probably to be done. Don't have the time for that. But I hope I've narrowed down the suspect list for those of you looking to pinpoint the Simpsons time traveler or the person behind the Simpsons prophecies. And I really hope you all didn't hate this episode.
I thought it was cute.
So fun for me to do. And those last 2 gave me cold chills. I was like, holy shit. I do want to say something, though. Since I'm done with, like, the Scaryish topic. John Swartzwelder has written for The Simpsons from seasons 1 to seasons 15. And when I was reading about him, they said that he used to go to the same coffee shop, and he would write episodes by himself in a booth while he smoked cigarettes and drank coffee. And they banned indoor cigarettes during the time he used to do this, but he had enough money that he bought the booth, and he put it in his house so he could continue his ritual.
That's cute.
And he kept writing Simpsons episodes. And when I was reading about all these guys, they're all incredibly impressive. And like I said, they did shape my childhood. John Swartzwelder, when I was reading things people said about him, people talked about how he was just like the guy. He was the most important piece of The Simpsons. And other peers that are just super famous talked about how John Swartzwelder is not just the greatest television writer ever.
He is the time traveler.
They legitimately say that he is currently living the greatest writer alive. That's how they view him. Like,
wow.
The most brilliant, the funniest people can all get in a room that have created all the shows you love, and the person who says the things and thinks of the things that makes all of them bust up laughing to the point where they're crying is John Swartzwelder. It's like, I've never seen things said about a person like this, like that impressive, and I was like, I'm going to say this on the show. Like, if this dude's this much of a badass, and I didn't know his fucking name until today, and he wrote all these episodes of one of my favorite shows of all time, like, I should remember his name, and you should at least all have heard his name on this episode.
Nice.
So, there you go. My shout out to John Swartzwelder, and of course, the mysterious time traveling 4, I know it's one of you, and all of the other folks who have worked on The Simpsons. But this episode was twofold for me. Like, pull out the ones that are horseshit, and then see if any actually existed. And there's 2. One that, yeah, I can understand if you guys are still skeptical on, but go look at the Shard on our Instagram. But this God Particle one really fucked my brain up. So, all
right, cool.
I really, really enjoyed this topic, and I hope you guys enjoyed listening to it.
Thank you for that great tidbit.
You're welcome.
All right, so thank you guys for joining us. I want to give a shout out to our special patrons, Michael and Connor. You guys are absolutely awesome. Thank you to all our patrons for supporting us. And we couldn't do it without you. If you folks want to help donate and keep the show going, you can go to patreon.com/scaryish-podcast. There's a whole bunch of different tiers. You can check it out, see what we have available. Tiers start at $1. So, it doesn't hurt, right? And then we do have a coffee, ko-fi.com/scaryish-podcast. Those are one-time donations. I really need to update it. But, all those donations go to helping us upgrade our studio setup. And yeah, don't forget to send us your emails for Homegrown Horrors.
Indeed. If you have Homegrown Horrors, email storytime@scaryish.com. Or go over to facebook.com/scaryish-podcast and message us there. You can also message us on Instagram, which is @scaryish-podcast. And if you want to tweet at us, I don't know how many of you can get a story in 280 characters, but it's @scaryish-pod. We always love the interaction. Or you can just, go to our website, scaryish.com, and click on Contact Us and send them that way. But yeah, I think that's everything we have for episode 117. Thank you all for listening. And Robin, go ahead and sign us out.
Keep on creeping on, and we'll talk to you guys later.
Bye-bye.